who should be paying attention to it? It feels like everybody should be. And I wonder, in that context, where do you even start? Like, where would a company even start?
Yes, that's such a great question. Today stakeholders have such big expectations for corporations, right? Solve natural resource scarcity, fight climate change, undo, years of historic racial systemic inequalities. Really big asks of today's corporate leaders. And ultimately, one organization cannot touch everything that is good. They cannot be supporting every single issue that everybody cares about. But what they can do is determine what is going to be material to our business and material to our stakeholders. And ultimately, Seth, in ESG, context is everything. The unique expectations and desires of your investors may be slightly different than the broader investment communities. Yet ultimately, everybody wants to know, what are you doing to identify, manage, and reduce the risks that these issues present and capture the opportunities they present now that all these expectations have evolved to account for issues like the sustainability attributes of your products and services, the environmental and social impacts of your operations. How are you treating your employees and your suppliers? And ultimately, how are you advancing the ball on everyone's acceleration to this sustainable future that we're all moving towards? So, Seth, I would say anyone who is operating a business in 2022 should be concerned about ESG because it will inherently impact them directly or indirectly in the form of impacting one of their key stakeholder groups. So, really, Seth, at the end of the day, ESG is about recognizing the interdependencies and interconnectedness of your business to society and the broader stakeholders your business depends on to operate. But let me ask you this, Seth. We hear quite a bit from folks about, oh, ESG isn't for us. We're not one of those green companies. Why would a company that's not considered green be concerned about ESG?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So I guess there are a few ways of approaching it. The first thing I might say is that, as you alluded to earlier, ESG broadly is more of a set of processes that you can put in place to figure out what matters to your company, what matters to your stakeholders, including your suppliers, your customers, your employees, your investors. It's a structured way of providing a voice to many different people in the context of their operations and their actions, their decisions, even their values. Although, and we can talk about this more later. I'm sure that we will in a later episode. But ways in which ESG is more about value creation and than it is about values, or maybe the way that those two things feed off of each other. But if you're not a sort of green company, you're a company that makes widgets. Just pick a widget. The fact is that your company exists and your employees are living in an unprecedented time for the climate, socially, all of the stuff you already sort of alluded to earlier. And so you don't have to be a green business or think of yourself. You might be a business that's been around for 100 years and that's been doing more or less the same thing. In order to adapt to this sort of new normal, it's necessary to listen, and it's necessary to report on the things that matter to organizations, companies, people beyond yourself. And luckily, there are processes that you can follow in order to identify what those material issues are. There are methodologies that you can pay attention to that ensure that you're doing it the right way. And there are formats that you can kind of present your insights, your reporting, ways that you plan everything. I mean, there's been an explosion of SaaS, software as a service, platforms out there just managing ESG. It's a multifaceted area with many different challenges, and so it's short-sighted to think that one, ESG is just a trend, and two, that it's not going to be relative. It's not going to be relevant for you in any meaningful way. I mean, the heart of ESG is identifying what is relevant to you, and what is relevant to your stakeholders. So and it can be done poorly, definitely. But when done well, it can illuminate, a lot more of the, a lot more of the opportunities that your business may have been may have been missing in this changing world.